Hi, I'm Tyson.
I'm Colin.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Adam.
And we're the Gamesmiths, and we're here to learn how to play Galactic Era. Ryan's going to teach us the rules.
All right. The Galactic Era is the greatest cycle of time. Beings of the light incarnate to experience the material world. They create great civilizations to explore and conquer the galaxy. The greatest one will determine the destiny of the galaxy before returning to the light. You are a fledgling spacefaring civilization exploring and expanding into the galaxy. Before meeting other civilizations, you must decide upon your morals. Will you respect others and cooperate peacefully, or will you only strive for your own goals? The background of this game is almost entirely based on actual testimonies and research by numerous people. See the accompanying background booklet or the website for details. So the object of the game is to score as many destiny points or DP as possible, following that on the track over there. And, you know, everybody starts at 0 and wins at, you know, whatever they win at.
That's the destiny.
Is that right here?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
To do this, players mainly need to have a large population and fulfill various conditions depending on what story and goal is being played. There are both peaceful and warlike paths to victory. The game is played over 8 rounds. Each round, players first take their turns moving their spaceships and fighting battles. After that, players pick 2 actions to grow their civilization. This is how they get new technologies, more stars, more populations, and more ships. Players can then also trade technologies and finally score some points for the round. So, kind of straightforward stuff. Everybody, so game concepts, let's look at this. Each player has their own race or group, which we set up before the game. We'll probably set up again before we actually play, but these are the ones we have just kind of for this demo. The population of the star is represented by these colored discs here that we have. They're placed in the middle of the hex where the name star is. So ultimately when you come and I'll come and explore and capture or whatever Maldeck, and it'll have a population, and I'll put a number of discs on there equal to its population. And you're gonna, and you have your population track here. You're gonna kind of score your whole population. Your main home star is marked by this cylinder here that everybody has, marking their center star, and I believe that is worth, I think like 5 or 6 population. We'll get to it in a second here.
It's got to be 6.
Yeah.
So it's got the 6 on
yeah,
it,
because
I
we
assume.
start, yeah, there's 6
With
on
6
there,
discs.
and your starting population is 6. So
Okay.
you can actually grab one of your population discs and floop it on there. Okay, so one thing that big concept in this game is alignment. So everybody has their race that they are, and each one has a different side. You have a white half circle up there and a black half circle up there. The white half,
Yin and yang.
so every player has an alignment. The universe offers 2 fundamental spiritual pathways individuals and planetary populations can take. One is to recognize everything as one being and thus love each other and self alike. The other is to disregard this and act only for self. So every player will have an alignment in the game. This is either service to others, represented by the white side of your card, or service to self, represented by the black side of your card. As a service to other players in this game, you are held to a high moral standard and must thereby play by the most peaceful means. You cannot fight other service to other players and can only attack STS players, service to self, under very specific circumstances. Your advantage is if you discover any advanced civilizations, you can easily get them to join your alliance due to your great reputation. Any population you liberate from those dark empires will gladly join you too. As a service to self player, or STS, you are not limited to any of those pesky morals of the light side. You have the freedom to be as aggressive as you want. Also, you can easily subjugate any primitive civilizations that you encounter by awing them with your great powers. And then ships are these guys right here. And they're ships. They're used to explore the galaxy, mine asteroids, colonize and take over other star systems, and fight fierce space battles. They are always in a hex on the board, and they are represented in two ways. One way is these log pieces that we have here, and the other way is as hidden ships, which are these tokens that we have here. And we'll get to those later. The other thing that we have, and they're just these tokens that have different numbers. So you see this one's a 5, and this one's a 1, and this one's a 10. So then we have fleets. And fleets are essentially, they're represented by these things here. By these little things here represent your fleets. Yeah. And they essentially, anything that's in a fleet has an advantage over, or gets some kind of advantage. So like, each fleet that you have isn't arbitrary. They each get different powers, essentially. So you probably actually don't want to stack them up like this, because then it's a little obvious which ones you have out. But you see they each kind of represent this going here. So a fleet is all the hidden ships in a stack below a fleet counter. Whenever ship pieces join a fleet, they are converted into counters. And whenever they leave, they're converted into ship pieces. So essentially, you can form your ships into a fleet, and depending on what type of fleet you form them into, you have one of each type, essentially, that you can do. Mm-hmm. Then the fleet gets different advantages. So the one that has to be face up is D, because it gives your fleet a range of +1. And so any ships that are in that get to move one further than any other ship in that fleet, or any other fleet, essentially. It just makes you move faster, essentially. And then you can see the different advantages of the other fleets, and we'll get to those. Then everybody has a war and peace token for each opponent. So here's my blue one. This represents my relationship with Tyson. If the dove is face up, I'm at peace with Tyson. And if the flying saucers blowing the crap out of a planet is face up, I'm at war with Tyson. So everybody should have one of each of those that represents their opponents, and they shouldn't have one for themselves. You can declare war. If you declare war, you can do it under certain circumstances. Everybody has we'll get to those later. Everybody has technology tracks right here in front of them. This is how you track, essentially, as you progress through the game, you level up more or less. And this kind of tracks how you do that. Then there are the era track. There's the era track that's right up there. And you can see we have eras of light and eras of darkness, and they represent the turns. So there's 8 turns and split up into 3 different eras, and we'll get into that a little bit more. So we've set up the game properly here. This is for a 4-player. Depending on how the number of people that you have, you'd use more of these. Anywhere there's gaps, we have oh, I made a mess. We have wormholes, and so we have pink wormhole to pink wormhole and green wormhole to green wormhole that let people hop across real quick. So, to play, and then we also handed out turn order tracks, so we're not gonna go, standard left to right, round the table kind of stuff. We're gonna do the order that we have here. So in this case, Colin's first, I'm second, Tyson's third, Adam's fourth. So we mark the current round using the gray pawn on the round track, which we did there. It's starting at 1. And then for each round, there are 4 phases. The move in combat round, the growth round, the trading round, or phase, I'm sorry. Move in combat phase, growth phase, trading phase, and scoring phase. So number 1 is the move in combat phase. In this phase, every player takes 1 turn in order as determined by their token. And the first player creates any new fleets. We'll get to that in a second, if you can create any new fleets. It's basically based on your population here. You can kind of see it on the track. Or creates any new, creates any new fleets, which is gathering stuff together. That's creating new ships is different. And then does all of their movement, and then after that does all of their combat, and then the next player goes. So to like oversimplify, I would go, okay, I'm going to attack Adam here, and Tyson here, and Colin here. And then I would resolve all of my combats, and then it would go on to, well, I guess I'm second, so then it would go on to who's ever third, which is Tyson. And then Tyson would get to go, and Tyson would go, like, I'm going to move here and not fight anybody, and I'm going to move here and fight Colin, and then I'm going to move here and fight Adam, and then you do your 2 fights there, kind of thing like that. So essentially everybody does their movement, and then everybody resolves.
Wait, you resolve? You move then resolve, or you move then Tyson
Yeah, do
moves,
all your
then
moves. No,
move?
I do all my moves, resolve all my combat.
Okay.
The Tyson does all his moves,
Got it.
resolves all his combat. For movement, the player may now move any or all of their ships, and you don't have to move any. A ship can move the number of hexes up to the player's current range as determined by your technology level in propulsion. So everybody is starting off at range 3. So all of your ships can move 3. As you up your propulsion technology, your ships will be able to move further each turn. And so that's why everybody has their own little technology tracker tree here.
Okay.
Player can move through any hexes as long as a player may move into or through any hexes as long as it is counted to the range and does not exceed it. A wormhole connects to the other end of the wormhole. Treat these as movement as if they were adjacent hexes. So you could go 1, 2, 3.
Got it.
Scouting. So players may secretly look at 1 star counter and relic counter where a ship of theirs is standing at any time during the game. A player may not use a ship that's just passing through to look at these things, so you must stop there. Make sense? So you're allowed to look, if I've got a ship here, I'm allowed to peek at what this token is.
It said 1 time during the game?
No. Anytime during the game. Players may secretly look at the star counter and relic counter where a ship. So these middle ones have relic counters. These ones, anything in the middle galaxy has a star and a relic counter. Anything in the outer galaxies only have star counters.
And you can fly a ship over there and you can peek.
If you have a ship there, if your ship is stopped there, it can't just be passing through.
Okay.
So if I go 1, 2, 3, I can't look at this one and this one. I can only look at this one because I ended here.
Okay.
So now that I've ended here, basically any time that I want to, as long as this ship is here, I can look at this token and I can peek at it and I can go, okay, so now I know that this is an advanced civilization
Ooh.
that's here. And I have that knowledge, essentially. A scouting player may not show inspected counters to other players. So yeah, that's that. Remote viewing is the psychic ability to tap into the universal mind and see an event anywhere in space and time. A player may remote view a certain number of times in their move combat phase according to their spirituality level. So you have another one here, spirituality. Once you get up to level 2 here, you get 1 remote view, which essentially means you can just flip over a tile anywhere on the board once per turn and look at it. I mean, a player,
You don't
they
show
only
it to
allowed to do
others.
1 though. So per remote view, right, a player may secretly look at one of the following things. A star counter, a relic counter. So you don't get both, like you have a ship parked there, one or the other. or a fleet of another player, i.e. the fleet counter and all hidden ships counters beneath it. The player must have a higher spirituality level than the targeted player to do this. And they may not show inspected counters to other players. So once you get, you got it. Once you get up to spirituality, you can look at one thing per turn, more or less. And if you're going to use it against another player, you got to be more spiritual than them. So combat. The player has completed all of their movement. A battle occurs in every hex where the player has a ship in the same hex with other players who they are at war with. The player whose turn it is selects the first battle hex to resolve. After it is resolved, they choose the next hex, and so on and so forth. So in the example I gave where I just attacked everybody, I would pick which fight happens first. And I'd pick the order of the fights. A player whose turn it is the attacking side. All other players in that hex who are at war with the attacking player belong to the defending side. So if Colin is at war with both Adam and I are at peace with each other, and Adam and I have ships in the same sector, and Colin comes in and starts a fight, he's starting a fight with both of us since we're both at war with him. If I was at peace with Colin and Adam was at war with him, I'd stay out of the fight, and it would just be between Adam and Colin, regardless of the fact that Adam and I are at peace with each other. Before resolving combat, defending players may have the option to retreat. If there are still defending players left in the hex, combat proceeds as follows. The attacking player and all remaining defending players reveal their fleets there. This means flipping up all fleet and hidden ship counters. So you'll have a fleet that's like this. So I'll have these two tokens. Wow, those really stick together once you put them together. And then like a fleet here. And then, there we'll go. That's not going to work. Oh well. And then we'll go like this. And yeah, so like, let's say Tyson and I are fighting here. So just grab one of your fleet tokens and put it on top.
Whoops, like that.
Yeah, so actually we'll try doing this. This will be a little spicier. We'll see, it probably still won't work, but okay, so this means flipping up, so then we would flip up our stuff here. So you have a 2 and a 1 and a C, and I have a 5 and a 1 and a B. Or, oh wait, I meant to put my A up there.
I don't think I have zeros,
I got
though.
swift. Everybody has...
That's your starter ships.
Everybody has zeros. Everybody has 10 zeros.
Oh, sure.
And those are your hidden ship. Those are your bluff tokens, basically. So you have up to 10 tokens you can bluff with. So you can have it stacked 10 things high, but only have one ship in it because all the others are bluffs. So we flip over like this. Man, I did not put my tokens where they should have gone. Okay, so I have an A and you have a C. And then each player then adds up the combat value of all their ships there. The combat value for each ship is determined by the technology level of the owning player. So you're going to look here. Military, it's your military power, so eventually your ships just become more and more and more powerful. So at level 1, we both have just combat value of 1 for each of our ships. So Tyson has 3 ships, I have 6 ships. And I have, well, let's just do it like this for fun. I have 5 ships, Colin has 4 ships. And we each have combat values of 1.
I have
So
0 ships.
it's...
Oh, that's Tyson.
Or sorry, yeah, Tyson. So it's Tyson's 4 against my 5. But then we also have to take in, and I'll go into the fleets a little more specifically, then we have to take into fleet things. So fleet A gets +1 combat value per ship. So now I'm up to 10. But fleet C gets counter assault +2 combat value per ship if going against an A fleet. So now all of these are worth, essentially this one's worth 3, 6, and then that one is now worth, what, another 6. So now you're at 12 to my 10. So you would actually beat me because you're the like counter-strike ship against my assault ship. And I'll go into the specifics of everybody. So you flip them up, you do all the math like that. So now we have Tyson's 12 against my 10. And each side adds up the combat value of all their ships there. Did that. The side with the higher CV wins, so this is Tyson in that case. If the totals are equal, then the side with the higher technology level wins. If the totals are equal, then the player with the... If that is also equal, then the defending side wins. The winning player then chooses all the losses from both the winners and the losers. Tyson may choose, so Tyson's the winner in this case.
Well, which technology level? In military only or in something else?
Yes, in military. Military technology level.
Okay.
The winning player, so Tyson then, Tyson may choose to remove all, some, or none of the ships of the losing player, and which those are. Of the losing player. So if in the case where like Tyson was fighting Adam and I, you would get to choose specifically how many of each of us. They wouldn't have to be equal or anything like that. He'd just take, whatever. At most, wait. The winning side then loses half of the number of ships that the losing side lost rounded up. At most, the winning side can lose all of its ships there. If the defending side wins and there are multiple players on the side, then the player who had the most ships there chooses the losses. So now, essentially what that means is Tyson gets to decide how many of my ships go, up to 5, and he loses half that many. So rounded up. So if you want to ace all 5 of mine, then you would lose 3 of yours, and you're left with 1 ship, and I'm totally destroyed, or whatever. The losing side then has to retreat. So this means the defending player with the most ships can So any remaining ships of the losing side must retreat. When a player retreats from a lost battle, they place all of their surviving ships from there into the nearest hex of their choice that contains no hostile ships. Ships may not retreat through a wormhole. Use the turn order when there are multiple players retreating. A retreating player may reorganize their retreating ships and fleets. This means transferring ships into, out of, or between any of these fleets. New ship counters must be shown to the other players. So if you want to shuffle around stuff and you're going to say, okay, now let's go back to the scenario where like I own both of these fleets. I've got a 1, 2, and I've got 1 fleet of 4 and I got 1 fleet of 5, and both of them are retreating or whatever. I can switch them around and say, okay, everybody, I'm revealing this 5 to you. I'm going to get a 2, and a 1 out of the box, and then make some change and mess around with my configuration here. So just when you make change, you have to show everybody the change. And then you're allowed to like sneakily organize them however you want, but the change has to be, public.
Right.
So as I said before, you are allowed to retreat before combat. A defending player who has a higher spirituality or propulsion technology than the attacking player may retreat before combat is resolved in a battle hex. Follow the same procedures as when retreating from a lost battle. Such a player must decide whether to use this before anything is revealed in that hex. Other players must give enough time to decide this before revealing their ships. A player may only choose to retreat all of their ships or none of them. If some of the player's ships can retreat and others may not, this may happen when using Fleet E, then they must choose to retreat all that can or none.
So if you're using the spirituality or the propulsion to get away from somebody before combat, you have to retreat all of your units. You couldn't leave any behind, correct?
Yes, but if you're doing it with Fleet E can always retreat before combat. So you might have a scenario where they attack Fleet E. You have Fleet E and Fleet A in the same hex, and you get attacked. Fleet E would be allowed to run, but you would have to have all of Fleet E run. You can't have, I'm going to have one ship from Fleet E run away, and the other 5 stay with Fleet A to help fight.
Right.
All of Fleet E goes or none of it goes. And if you're in a scenario where you have the propulsion's higher than the person attacking you, or your spirituality is, so you're either faster or you saw it coming, you
May also retreat.
everyone has to go
Everyone,
or
yeah.
no one goes.
Yeah.
So, handling fleets, creating new fleets. So, a player may create new fleets at your own stars or at the start of their turn before moving any ships. The player does this by taking a fleet counter off your board supply and placing it into such a hex. They may then place the fleet counter face down so other players do not see its tactics. Then they transfer at least one ship into it by putting a hidden ship counter onto it. A player can also swap 2 of their fleets at any time if they are at a star of theirs. To do this, just swap fleet counters on top. So that's literally if you have a fleet A and a fleet E, you can just flip the counters on top of each stack without revealing anything. If you don't want to do it that way, if you actually want to repopulate things and get change, then you have to go through the aforementioned process of showing everybody what you're taking. Anytime during their turn, but before any combat has happened, a player may transfer ships into or out of fleets. The player can exchange ship counters between fleets that are in the same hex without revealing them. The player can also convert ships pieces to counters vice versa in the same hex, but they must show counters used to other players. Players must be careful to ensure none of their ships move farther than its allowed range. So, in other words, at some point I can say, okay, I'm going to take these 2 ships and I'm going to turn them into a fleet. And I'm going to just take these 2 off and put them as a fleet here and then put like this hidden counter to say, boom,
This is how much. Okay.
now I have this fleet. And I can kind of add to it, and if I move here, then I can put this guy, or then, then I can make this into fleet A of 1. And so now I have 1, and I have 2, and then I can move them into the same one, and I can go, he, you guys don't know, which one's which. So now do I have, which one's A, which one's E, or whatever, which one's A and which one's C and which one's 2 and which one's 1. Now you guys don't know, and I can fly around, with some kind of level of secrecy. But whenever I want to do that, I had to show you guys, okay, I'm taking 1 off, and I'm putting on a chip with 1 underneath there. Mm-hmm. So you guys know I'm not cheating as to the number I have, but I then can be sneaky.
Under there, you can.
Right. But then I kind of have to be in the, swap them all around like that. Whenever a fleet has no more ships, then the fleet immediately becomes dissolved and the counter is placed on your supply without revealing it. Fleet tactics. Each fleet has a special effect which only applies to ships in that current fleet. This is described on the short pad. Assault, whenever this fleet is involved in combat, add 1 CV per ship, that's A. Bomb, for every 2 ships in this fleet, increase the ship count by 1 for the purposes of conquering or liberating a star. Counter assault, add 2 CV per ship in this fleet if there is an A opposing it, like we just did in the demo. Dart, ships in this fleet get +1 to their movement range. Ships that leave this fleet immediately lose this advantage. Ships that already have used this advantage may not leave this fleet anymore this turn. Note the D fleet counter has no hidden sides. Players always know where D fleets are because they're moving faster.
Oh, no.
Evade. Ships in this fleet have the option to retreat before combat regardless of technology levels, but only when they're defending. To use this special effect, the players must reveal this counter. So like I was talking about earlier, A and E get attacked. You could say this pile's E and it's out of here. But you have to show that it's E. Players get advanced fleet tactics when they reach certain levels in military technology. For every advanced fleet tactics, players places a counter on a fleet section of theirs. Or they choose which side of the counter to place. So there's a ×2 or a +3 DP. Actually, I don't think we have those. We'll have to make sure we grab those counters before we start. So those counters simply say a fleet with a counter showing ×2 has its special effect doubled, and for the three and at least if at least half of a player's ships involved in a battle are fleets with counters showing its +3 DP side, then a player gets an additional 3 destiny points for winning it. So either winning with that ship gets you more points, or it doubles the bonus of that ship, of that fleet. I'm sorry. And those come at different tactic levels here. So at military level 2, one of your fleets can either get their ability doubled or start getting extra points. And then when you get up to 4, you'll get that for a second fleet. And then when you get up to 6, you'll have that for a total of all 5 fleets will be advanced, essentially. And then there are dummy counters, which we discussed before. A player may add or remove dummy counters from their personal off-board supply to or from any of their fleets anytime during their turn. They may also add these fleets to any fleets wherever they are building new ships. They must show dummy counters they are adding or removing face up to the other players. A player may never have more than 10 of these in play at a time. So everybody has their 10 dummy counters. So that is the movement and combat phase. Any questions about that?
Can we just breeze through a quick summary of the big important pieces of the move combat phase?
We'll go through the combat headers here too.
So movement's defined by propulsion.
Right.
We all
Number
start
one,
by moving 3.
move up to your propulsion levels. You can move through wormholes. They count as one thing.
Yeah.
When your ships are stopped, they can scout at the planet they're at by looking at basically any of the discs that are there.
Or if they're in the middle,
if they're in the middle, they get both. If they're on the sides, any of the ones that are there.
Okay.
Remote viewing allows you to look at one disc anywhere on the board at any time.
And that comes through spirituality.
Right. And that will give you the number of remote views that you have.
Anytime during your movement phase, you just say, I want a remote view, whatever.
Correct.
And that could be anywhere. I can look at remote view Collins stuff.
You can look at a star counter, a relic counter, or a fleet, meaning not only the token to figure out what type of fleet it is, but you can also look at
see if there's dummies
quantity.
in there.
Correct.
Okay.
But,
You cannot
okay, so
show
we have-
any of
so we
this
have
information to other players.
We have a wormhole here in a nebula. Does that mean if you go through that one, it's going to take 2 movement to get here because it's in a nebula?
We'll get to that in 1 second. I think it's moving out of the nebulas that cost you 2.
Cost 2
Cost 2
range
to
to enter.
Enter. Okay, so yes then. It would cost you...
Even
2.
though you're entering the wormhole there, I don't know.
Well, they just make it adjacent, so the wormhole is not. These aren't the same space.
So we'll just call them. We'll call these wormholes. So we'll just call this a wormhole space and not a nebula space. Unless I'll keep reading. If it says specifically, then we'll deal with that. If not, let's just say I don't know for now. Maybe
Okay.
it says in the back.
Sure.
And if it doesn't, we'll decide what we want to do. So then combat. For combat, the
That's it for moving. That's really all.
that's it for moving.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, and then you can move.
And then so you move all of your
create
ships.
swap fleet happens in the move phase too.
Correct. Oh yeah. Move combat. Create SWAT fleets. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it says
So you
that
can-
afterwards. So creating new fleets. So that's basically you can just transfer ships in and out.
So you
and
can move a couple ships together, turn them into a fleet.
turn them into a 2-chip, trade a 2-chip, 2 chips and a 1-chip in for a 5-chip.
And when do you put one of these on it?
Put one on top of it to mark
Right
as
when
a
it
fleet.
becomes a fleet, you put one
Correct.
of these on it. So if you have more than 5 fleets, you don't get a chip for it. A special.
I think at that point you're just correct.
Okay, got it. Okay. And then creating. How are you creating? I remember swapping.
A player can create new fleets on their own stars at the start of their turn before moving any ships. They do that by taking a fleet counter off their board supply and placing it onto their hex. Then they may place the
Off
fleet
their board
counters face
supply.
down so the players do not see its tactics. You then transfer at least one ship by putting a hidden ship counter
That's
under it.
creating fleets and swapping fleets.
That's
not creating
creating-
ships.
Right, we haven't
That's creating a
gotten
fleet.
to
Yeah,
that.
we haven't got to how we actually create ships yet.
Gotcha.
That's in the
Okay.
build
No, I
grow
get that.
phase.
So
Yes.
creating a fleet and then
You're just
swapping
combining your existing ships into fleets.
fleets. And can you swap fleets anywhere or only on your stars?
You can only create ships. You can swap pretty much wherever you want.
So if I get two of my
Oh no!
my fleets
Player
to
can
here,
also
I mix them
swap
all
two
up.
fleets at this time if they are at a star of theirs.
Only at a star can you
Yes,
swap.
if-
So if I have two fleets here, I can pick them up and swap everything around. I can move around how many
Correct.
ships are in each fleet and what the
Yeah.
fleet is. Okay.
Yeah,
Those are star
and as long
games.
as
Only
you're
on my
not
star.
making- right? Only
Because
on your
two of
star.
my ships are
Just
sitting
star
here. I
games.
can't do anything with them.
Correct.
I can't swap anything.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, you can't just swap. Let me see. Transferring ships at any time on their turn, also during movement before any combat, a player may transfer ships into or out of their fleets. They can exchange ship counters between fleets that are in the same hex. So you can swap two of your fleets. So the ability
you
to
can-
swap the tokens and really just go nuts is only if they're on a star.
Well, the only time you can swap these is on a star. But you can
Correct.
move in and out ships on any shared space, right?
Right.
So if
the
I
player-
get two fleets to the same space, I can move ships between them. I just can't swap the
right
token, which doesn't
is
make
effectively
much
the same
sense.
thing. Yeah.
Doesn't change anything because I could just swap all my ships underneath them and never
Yep.
move the. Are we saying that's?
But you couldn't take the
Possible.
ones off of the board, I assume, or like something that
Oh.
you have in reserve. Like I'm assuming that swapping on stars means that if you hadn't played
You can
E
also
on
swap
there, you
from
can
your
put there.
you can also
well,
swap
but
from
if
your
some
reserve.
guys here and some
I think
guys here,
that's-
and I move them together here, do I turn that into a 2 and pull out one of these?
No,
things?
that you can't do.
Is that
that
only
has
on
to
a
be
star?
done on a star. And I think when you swap, you can also swap from your pile there
Oh.
too.
Okay, that makes sense. That would change.
So that would be at a star, you can kind of go nuts with the tiles. When you're out here, you can really only go nuts
so
with the tokens. if that
combining
makes
two of
sense.
my ships right here, I can turn them into a brown 2, but I can't put one of these on it. Or do
No,
they
I
just
think
stay
they
as two
have to
individual
have.
ships?
I think they have to, unless they're a fleet, they are the wood thing. So I
So
think
you can only create
I
fleet
think you
at
can
a
only
star?
have 5 fleets. Yes, you can only combine. I think you can have a maximum of 5 fleets.
And only at a star. I can't create
can
a
only-
fleet in
correct.
mid-space.
That is correct.
Okay, so, but if I already have fleets and I meet in space on a
Then
single
you can
spot,
switch ships.
You
I
can
can
switch
move
the
ships
brown
between
discs
them.
underneath them. Yes,
everything else has to be done in a star. That's
correct.
the only thing that can be done in outer space.
Correct.
Okay, I'm good on move. And create swap fleets. Combat. Does anyone else have move or create swap fleets questions?
You have to roll gravity dice for combat.
There's no dice.
Oh, with the
There are no
fleet
dice.
tactics, when you
numbers.
get an advanced fleet tactic increased, how do you? Oh, never mind. I remember that. Never mind.
Yeah, you take a token and you
A
mark,
token that
this
we
is-
don't
this is
have
my
right now,
bonus.
yep.
Right, this is my advanced
The
tactic.
gravity dice.
I didn't.
Uh,
yeah, I don't understand that part, but
So combat, when they're fighting, the player whose turn it is the attacking side. The attacking player fights anybody that they're at war with in that hex. If they're at peace, they don't fight. Everybody reveals their fleets
so
and their
moving-
ships.
Unless you're at peace with someone, moving into the same space with them has to create a fight.
I believe stopping in the same space with them, yes.
Moving through, does that create a fight?
After the player has completed all their movement, a battle occurs in every hex where a player has ships in the same hex with other players
After
who
their
they're at
movement.
war with.
So if I'm
Yes.
passing through, if I'm at war with you and I pass by your ship through your same square, we're not fighting.
I don't think so.
It's only
No.
when I conclude my movement.
A player may move, and it says let me see. A player may move into or through any hexes as long as it is counted and the range does not exceed it. So yes,
Okay.
you're allowed
So
to
I
just
can move past the hostile ship and not fight them. If I stop there
You have to fight them,
and it's my turn and we're hostile, I'm the attacker, they're the defender,
and you are fighting.
and we're fighting.
Yes.
Okay.
The defender has the option to run away if they have a higher spirituality,
Or
they're using fleet E, or their propulsion is higher.
So if my say you have 2 spirituality, I have 1, but I have 2 propulsion and you have 1 propulsion, can I still
Nope,
run?
I'm gone because I saw it come. Yes, whatever. Yeah. In
So
both
if
of
you're
those
lower
cases, we
in
can
one
both
but
run
higher
away.
in the other,
Doesn't do anything.
you just have to be beating them in one
if
of
you
them.
beat them in one or the other, you're
Okay.
either faster or you saw it coming.
Okay. And then go on.
Then you can flee. If the defender doesn't flee, then there's a fight. Everybody reveals all of their hidden information, and the combat value is added up based on their military might and tactics. If the total is tied, then whoever has a higher military technology wins. If that's tied, then the defender wins. The winner gets to
Hold on.
choose.
Say that again. Whoever has a
Higher CV wins.
and
Ties
this
then
all changes your CVs.
this and this change your CVs.
What does CV stand for?
Combat value.
Combat value.
Okay.
So your
So if
military
you're
might
not-
and your tactics determine your CV.
If you're not in there with a fleet, you're just one ship in there versus another ship. This is your CV.
it's one.
It's
yes.
1, but if I'm here, it's 2.
Correct.
Okay. So if I'm a fleet of 3 and I'm here, is that, or a fleet of 2 and I'm here, is that 12?
Yes.
Plus a bonus if I have it, based
If
on
you're
what
sh-
my
yes.
fleet is.
Yes. Exactly.
So this is per ship, and then these are the modifiers to the whole fleet.
To the fleet. Yes.
Okay.
So assault is +1 combat value per
And then
ship.
whoever has a higher
So then they'd
CV
each be
wins.
7. Highest CV wins.
And
if
then
there's
the
a tie,
winner decides how many the loser loses.
Yeah.
and then
and
they
they
lose
lose
half
half.
that many, rounded up.
Even if
all
they
that's-
crushed them, even if your CV's 1 and mine's like 20,
Yes.
I still lose half my fleet.
Yes.
CV? Oh wow,
That's why you get to choose
interesting.
how many you kill.
Yeah, but still, that's interesting. So
Uh,
there's no.
There's always
But if
Your
casualties
CV
and
if
more,
your
Adam.
CV's 20, that probably means you had 10 ships to my 1 or 2 ships, which means you can blow up 2 of my ships, and I will have killed 1 of your ship.
Okay.
So it's very unlikely you would have that large of a huge CV disparity without also having a large ship
Or unless we're a
disparity.
C to A or.
Right.
Okay. Cool.
But then that
Fair
just
enough.
means that your small number of ships out.
And you
fought
lose
a large-
half as many as they lost plus
rounded up.
Okay.
Rounded up. Yep. So
Got it.
if you kill 5 of theirs, you lose 3 of yours.
I guess that's not bad.
So you can never lose 0.
Right.
No, okay.
And then any remaining ships on the losing side must retreat by, more or less just moving a hex away. And you can also kind of split up your fleets at that time as well too. So a retreating player may reorganize their retreating ships and fleets. This means transferring ships into, out of, or between any of these fleets. So that whenever you retreat, you can essentially move around the brown disk like
If
it
you're
was your-
retreating 2 of your fleets.
Correct. So if you have 2 fleets on the same place here, and so you can swap them around.
As you're
and then someone
retreating,
can
you can
attack.
mess with
As you
them as
retreat,
much
you
as
mess with them like that you could anytime they were sharing the same hex.
Okay.
And then if a fleet has no more ships, it's immediately dissolved. Any other questions?
That's all.
And then you have dummy counters. So that's movement and combat.
How do you get the dummy counters in? When do you put those in?
When you're building a fleet, so you would just say, so I would build this fleet here.
So someone sees you reach for a dummy counter, but
You would-
then-
you have to
tell.
say.
You have to say,
announce
I'm
it.
adding this many
So you have to
dummy
say,
counters.
I've got these 3.
Okay, so it's not a mystery for a while, but then if I can get it onto
Yeah.
another space with my other ship, then I can mess them up,
Right.
and that's when it gets really weird.
I would say I'm doing these 3, so I'm going to take a 2 and a 1 and 2 of my dummy counters and form it into this fleet.
And done. You don't tell me.
And I'm done.
Unless it's a D.
I think I actually say it would actually be C because
You
I
have
pull
to
it off
tell them?
and I hide it when I put it down, is how it's said.
Yeah, I guess you'll see which one. Well, unless you don't have to keep them here. Unless you can keep them all over here turned over.
The way that it's worded
Except for
seems
D.
like I have to show it. So he places A player creates a new fleet on their own stars at the start of their own turn before moving any ships. The player does this by taking a fleet counter.
Before moving ships,
Yes,
you form before you move.
creating a brand new fleet
So
has
they
to be done
already
before
had
you
to be
move.
there.
So
Correct.
at the end of the last
So
round,
you
had
get
to
them
come-
all there at one turn, and then at the start of your next turn is when
can
you form
your
them.
fleet.
Got it. That's interesting.
So that they may place the fleet counter face down so other players do not see its tactic. Then transfer at least one ship into it by putting a hidden token underneath it.
So you don't ever have to show you don't have to disclose what your
Yeah.
fleet is.
Except
And
for D,
you
obviously.
wouldn't
but
keep
yeah.
him here because, or what are these for? Are you supposed to keep him there?
No,
Why put a
that's-
square there?
I think you are. I think it. The way that I read that is you see it come down, and then you can hide it at that point if you'd like.
See?
So you can just say, okay, I'm going to use my fleet A here, and I'm going to use a 2, a 1, and 2 zeros, and I'm going to put it down.
So people will know. Is that how we're gonna play?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can decide.
You're
how
the
we wanna
rule
play.
guy, so you based on
I don't know.
Your
I think
understanding
other
of the
than
rule.
D, I think if you're allowed to hide it, then
Then
you
we
should hide
should
it from
put
the
'em on there.
beginning. Yeah.
okay.
What are these spaces for then?
Those are the where you put the advanced tactic
That's right.
tokens.
Okay.
So if you want to double up your A fleet, you put it there.
Okay.
What is an advanced tactic?
We don't have those out right now, but
Okay.
It
I remember
either
you talking about
yeah,
those.
it either
We don't
gives you
have those
more
yet, there's
victory
some ways.
points. Yeah, we'll get there when somebody levels up there in the game. So and then D's. So I would say, okay, I'm putting this token on here. I've got a 2, a 1, and 2 zeros, and then I could even and then I could even do. I have to have at least one ship. So I would say, okay, I'm doing a 1 and 2 zeros here. And like a 1
and 1 0.
And
You
one
can
zero
create a
here.
fleet out of one ship
Yeah,
on a star.
yeah, because it says at least 1.
So if you just leave someone at home base, you can create it.
You could create three
right?
different
Three
ones
ships.
right off the
Yeah.
bat. And then,
That's worth it because you get their bonuses
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
to a single ship.
And
But
then
you
like
lose the
as they
permanent.
grow and everything like that. So yeah.
Okay.
So we good?
Okay. Yep.
Cool.
That's movement and combat. Growth phase consists of the following steps: select counters, switch alignments, change turn order, resolve other actions. So number 1, select counters. All players secretly select 2 of their oval growth counters and 1 square technology or turn change order counter,
It's like 2 grab, 1 tag.
or turn order change counter.
These are
for
growth?
every star
Ovals are
with
growth?
+5 populations. Hold on. For every star with 5 or more populations, a player now has, other than their home star, they may select an additional oval growth counter. The player will lose 2 destiny points for every such additional growth counter selected, though. When all players have selected all of their counters, then these are all revealed simultaneously. Then apply any DP losses for any additional counters selected. So you're going to select these, and I'll go over kind of what they each mean. But essentially, everyone's going to select what their growth action will be for the turn.
2 growth, 2 ovals, and 1 of these.
Correct.
1
So you do
tech.
2 ovals and 1 tech.
So now everyone's moved, and we go into growth, and then we all together select 2 ovals and 1 square.
Right. And then just like secretly hide
And
them.
hold them.
Right. And
So
then
we
everybody.
probably need to turn these over too. So
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So then everybody shows what they're doing. And so I chose ships and technology and military for mine. So we'll go through this here real quick. Hold on. So, yeah, we'll just do it this way. So we'll do it in order. So switch alignment. If anybody chose the switch alignment token, which is your dark side, light side arrow thing, there, resolves that action. Everybody does that at the same first and simultaneously. When the switch alignment action happens, you're just going to flip your card over. So everybody who had it would at the same time flip their card over.
okay.
With the switch, flip it over. You are then automatically at peace with all players when you switch your alignment.
Even if you go to STS,
Yes.
you're at peace. Okay.
So I
Oh,
assume,
no, I'm sorry. His alignment from STS to STO or vice versa. Yes, okay. Yeah, they flip over their race group tile to the other side, and then is automatically at peace with all players.
so everybody needs to be aware of that so that
Yeah.
they switch their tokens, correct?
Yep. A
Like these
player,
ones.
yes, a player at spirituality technology level 5 or 6 must be and stay at STO. A switch alignment action has no effect on them at this spirituality level. Note that switching alignments due to reaching level 5 or 6 happens when the technology level is reached, so not during the switch alignment step above. Change turn order. If there are players who selected to a turn order change, i.e. a -1 or +1 counter, then the turn order is changed in the following manner. First, all players who selected a -1 move one number down in any turn order. Do this by starting with the lowest number and then going up. Each such player exchanges their turn order with the next lower player. For the player who already had the number 1, such a counter does nothing. Secondly, so you can't hit
So I can't
-1
go
when you're already 1. Okay, yeah, no, so
I
was
can't
wrong.
go 4 to
No,
1.
You can't go 4 to 1, I guess. Secondly, all players who selected a +1 change counter. Move one turn up in turn order as the same manner above, except the players that start with the highest number and then go down. So a player who already has the highest number, +1 does nothing for them. So Adams 4 shouldn't pick +1. Collins 1 shouldn't pick -1.
Okay.
Note, you can also not prevent losing your first last place if the player that is second to last wants to take it. All right, so then we need to resolve other growth actions. So the first one we can do is gain a star. That's this guy right here. It's the only one that you have 2 of to note. If you do gain a star, depending on what your alignment is, you will have different options for gaining each types of stars. There are 3 types of stars, essentially. There are uninhabited, advanced, primitive, and stars that are owned by people that you're at war with. And I guess stars that you're owned by people at peace, but you can't really interact with those or anything.
So it's like Mario Party.
Sure. So if it's uninhabited, STO
No, it's
or STS, all you have to have is 1 ship there. You take it. You do this action, gain star. You have 1 ship there. You just remove this token and put 1 of your discs there, and that is STO or STS. If you are at a primitive planet, if you are an STO player, you cannot take that star. If you're an STS player, all you need is 1 ship there, and you will take that star, remove it, and put 2 population discs on there. You've subjugated the primitive population. Second option you can do is against a player that you're at war with. If you are an STO player, you can liberate that star. To liberate, you have to have more ships than the population. So here there are 2 discs, and I have 3 ships. So I can liberate this star by replacing all of the green discs with my red discs.
If green was STS.
Yes, assuming that green, I was at war with green.
Okay.
Then, if I was at war
You
with
get 2
green,
or you just get 1?
I get 2.
2 for liberating.
If I was at war with green and I was the STS, then I would be the conqueror, and I would conquer instead of liberate. If that's the case, I have to have more ships there than the population disc, same qualifications, 3 to 2 there. But this time I essentially kill all of these people and replace them with my own, so I only get 1 in that
Oh,
case.
okay.
Well, it can depend, right?
Yeah, different races and groups change these numbers as some of their racial benefits, so we'll deal with that in the game. And then finally, there is allying with a planet, and if you are there's a couple things, so not quite finally. So if you are an STO player, so if you're a peaceful player and you run into one of these advanced civilizations, you can ally with them. You only need 1 ship, and in that case, you remove the disc, and you get 3 population in that
Where does
spot.
the disc go? You
Just
keep
out of
it-
the game, gone.
Okay.
It's just removed from the game. And then, so now we have, so that's how that works.
But you get technology or anything from that?
Nope, just gone. Players can only conquer. Okay, so if you're an STS player and you remove that, you have to conquer it. It is considered to have 3 population, so you need 4 ships to conquer it, and it's the same as conquering a piece or something owned by somebody else. So in the case of a you would need to have 4 ships to conquer this, and in that case you would remove it, and you would only get 1 disc because you're conquering it, not liberating it or allying with it. So you're basically just killing all those people and replacing them with yours. Like I said, some of your racial bonuses will change that, and it's the only one that you have 2 of. And you remember you get 2 per turn, so you can conquer 2 stars in 1 turn. If you're trying to take it with a fleet, you have to reveal the required number of ships to take that fleet, but not any more than that. So if you have 10 ships in a fleet, but you only need 3 to conquer, you only have to show 3 of those ships. Involuntary home star evacuation. So if someone conquers your home planet, you will move your, essentially you'll just move your home planet somewhere else. So if a player loses their home star through conquest or liberation, they must immediately seek a new home star. They'll select one of their stars without hostile ships and with the most population among these. Other players may not declare war on the evacuating player to prevent them from evacuating certain stars. To evacuate, they remove their cylinder and any population disk from their old home star and remove any new population disk at the new and place their cylinder there. So if Adam were to say, take my home star here, I would look around. I have 2 1s and a 3 or and a 2. So I would need to go to this 2 to move my home there. And I would remove the 2 that are there and I'd put this there. And
Do you
that's
just
now
do
my
it, or
home.
do you have to fly ship there?
I would just do it.
What if you don't have any?
If there's nowhere that they can evacuate to, then your home star may not be conquered or liberated.
Oh, okay.
So there's no player elimination.
Correct. Any of the population discs other than the cylinder at the home star are lost, and then Adam would, get 6 there since he liberated it. Or if he conquered it, he would only get 1. If there are hostile ships in the hex of the player's home star, they may voluntarily evacuate their home star during this turn of the growth phase. This works the same manner as above, except they also place 1 population disk where their home star previously was. So, this is my home star. I can, in that case, go like, oh, Adam's about to blow this up. I'm going to retreat voluntarily, make this my home, and only leave 1 population here. So now Adam can conquer it, but there's only 1 population there, and my home star's, retreated to a safe one. Gaining technology, a player who conquers or liberates a star from another player may immediately get 1 level in any technology from that player. The technology must be in a field where the player has lower technology than the one they took from. So if I have, spirituality of 3 and propulsion of 3, but Adam comes in with his military of 3 and destroys my home star, then
He can't increase military because they didn't have higher.
because he's already higher, but he could increase his spirituality or propulsion as long as he's lower than those stats than I am. And that old concept comes up again. You can choose the grow population disk. That's this one, the one with the sun/disk. Adds 1 population disk to every star that is below its growth limit. We'll get to that in a sec. The limit is equal to its distance in hexes to the nearest player inhabited star.
So your guys way in the back could get all huge.
Right.
Yeah. So a player with growth population adds This limit is equal to its distance in hexes to the nearest player inhabited star. Yeah. So both of the player themselves and other players. Note that hex is different than range used for ship movement. This means that wormholes, nebulons, and neutron stars have no effect for this distance. You also do not lose population already placed on a star because of a decrease in the growth limit of the star. This is only relevant for adding. Make sense to everyone? So if this is the only inhabited star here and I put 30 dudes there because it's super far away from everything, and then Colin moves in next door, that doesn't kill anybody here. I just can't put anybody new here now because it's already over the limit. But the fact that it's over the limit doesn't require me to remove
Adjust it,
anything or
okay.
kill anything.
That
yet.
only matters when you're adding.
Right. Bonus population. Players that have genetics at level 2 or higher may also add bonus population equal to that.
So when they're doing the populate action, they're adding 2, not just 1.
No. They
They're
add
adding one
a
extra
number,
to-
right? One. So if they have 5 stars, they'll add 5, 1 for each star, and then they'll get 1 extra for their genetics.
To place anywhere, but that
Correct.
can't exceed the population limit, I'm assuming as well.
Yes.
Okay.
So actually, well, it can. So hold on.
Oh.
The previously mentioned growth limits do not apply when placing bonus population, but you may place only 1 bonus population per star in a single
So if
growth
I
action.
had genetics 3, could place 2.
But they have to be on different stars.
Okay. But both can be exceeding their population
Correct.
limit. Interesting.
If a player gets more bonus population than the stars they own, the excess population is wasted. Next thing you can do is build ships. That's the one with the ship and the star. Players build ships, gets a number of ships as follows. New ships equals ship number on population track. You can see that on your population track. Plus ship number for robotics level. See that on your robotics level. +2, +4, 6, 8, 12. And plus number of asteroid systems with a ship of the player. So yeah, so if you have a ship parked at one of these asteroids, when you do a new ship action, that's worth 1 new ship. So example, Ellen has a total of 8 population, robotics of 3, and 1 asteroid system with a ship of hers. So she can build 9, 4 from population, 4 from robotics, and 1 from the asteroid. The player first gathers ship pieces and counters, including dummies, totaling the above sum and showing those counters to other players. They then may distribute all of these in any way amongst their stars where they have 4 plus population. So you can only build if at a star that has 4 or more population on it.
So that's a way to sneak
Right.
dummies because you'll have to lay them all out.
Correct.
And I'm adding 3 dummies, but then you take that whole pile, hide them,
Shuffle it up and
distribute
distribute
them
it amongst
secretly.
your ships, yes.
But those ships have to be at stars already?
At stars, and those stars have to have a population of 4 or more.
Okay, so
Or can you build them at
if
the
I only have if
asteroid
I have 4
belt?
population here, and that I don't have 4 anywhere else, so that's the only place I can build, and I have a ship there, I have to put everything I just built right here.
Your home always has 6.
Oh,
So you'll always be able to do it at your home or
But if
any
no
star
ships
with
were there?
population. It doesn't matter.
But can you build them at the asteroid system?
So you can
No.
spawn new ships at any place you have a base that has more than 4.
Correct.
There don't already have to be ships there.
Correct.
Okay.
If you want to put them as a part of
And
a
if
fleet,
it's not a part of a fleet, do you have to use a log thing, or can
Yes.
you use a token? Are tokens only used when
This
they're
looks
part of a
like
fleet?
French fry.
And if you run out of logs, can you not build any more?
ship pieces that are placed into the hexes of these stars. Yep, ships, yes. Ships are placed into hexes, counters are placed into fleets. You may also create new fleets for placing these
So if
ships
all
into.
of my fleets are out, and I'm out of logs, and I do the ship action, and I'm creating, I mean, you can create so many ships based on these numbers, and I'm
Right.
creating 20 ships,
Right.
but I don't have 20 logs, and all my fleets are out. Am I prevented from creating more ships?
Yes, I believe so.
Because tokens are only added to fleets,
Correct.
and if you don't have a fleet, even if I'm spawning like a bunch of logs at one station, if there's not a fleet there to just add tokens to, I'm adding a bunch of log
Correct.
things.
By an expansion, you have
You're
more
allowed
ships.
5. You're allowed five fleets.
Okay. So once you've maxed out your 5 fleets, you can't create another fleet.
Correct.
And then you could max out your. If your fleets are all away from stars, you can max out your logs pretty quick then.
Correct.
So that is not a fringe case. That could very likely happen.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, not for me.
Okay. With the research action, that's the stethoscope or microscope. That's not a stethoscope. With the research action, the player advances one level in every technology field for which you have selected a technology for the. So remember, you're selecting a technology field when you select your technology
Two
counter.
ovals in a square.
Right, and so it goes up for the one that you selected the square for.
So if you select a square but not this guy, does it not move?
Right.
Okay.
That's why you have the other squares of turn order and
Any other questions?
etc.
That's the growth phase.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So outside of tech, there's only 2, which are turn order related.
Correct.
So if you're not choosing this guy, you should probably choose turn order, right? Because, okay. I'm good.
Yep.
Any other questions? No? Okay.
No, sir.
Moving on to trading technology. After the growth phase, players may trade technologies. Negotiations and executions of trades are done simultaneously. A trade may be only between 2 players, and each of these 2 must get a technology level. Each player involved in a trade gets 1 level in a technology field where he is lower than their trading partner. Both players must agree with the technology level each player is getting. Every player may only participate in 1 trade per round. 2 players who wish to trade with each other must also be in contact. This means they must have a ship in the same hex, or 1 player must have a ship at the star of the other player. If one of the 2 trading players is at spiritual level 4+, no contact is needed. Note, you do not lose technology levels when you trade, you only gain. So we would look, I'm at military 3, Tyson's at spirituality 2. I would say, Tyson, I can give you a level in military if you give me a level in spirituality. We both have to agree, but if we're like this, let's say I'm up at propulsion, and this, Tyson can go, I'll give you a level in spirituality for a level in propulsion, and I'll go, no, but I will trade you for military, so we have to agree on what we're trading.
Okay, and then one
then
person
I
goes
can
up,
say,
the other
no,
person
what
goes
if I
down.
give you
No,
this?
both people go up.
There's no going down.
No
But you can
going
only do
down.
one
No
person,
going down.
right.
I teach you how to make your propulsion better. You teach me how to make my spirituality
It's not
better.
trading, it's teaching.
It's trading information, but you don't actually
Gotcha.
lose your
What you
knowledge.
knew.
You just
Okay.
teach. Yeah. So I'll teach you this if you teach me that.
Got
We
it.
both have to gain something, and we both have to agree on what the other person
Yeah.
is gaining.
Okay.
Any questions?
Not on trading.
That's it. End of trading technology.
So this is literally just to trade technology. Nothing else can be traded. in the
Correct.
game. Okay.
That's the end of the trading phase. Last, score for round track. At the end of the round, players score destiny points according to the era of the current round. Mark the new score on the track accordingly. Some things are more practical to score right away when they occur, such as winning a battle or taking a star. Everything else is scored at the end of the round. What players can score for in a round is determined by the Galactic story tile, which is right there, laid out along the turn track. So this is different each time.
That's fun.
Yep. So here in this one, and we can we'll explain this when we're
Basically
actually
during
playing
the
the game.
eras,
But yeah,
gotcha.
during this beginning era, if you're aligned with the era, you get 1 victory point, and then you get like 1 victory point for everybody that you're at peace with. In this one, in the dark era, you get 1 point for being dark, and you get 2 victory points for like everything you conquer and every battle you win. And then in the light era, you get points for every technology you trade towards the end, kind of thing like that. So we'll go in specifics about the one that we talk about later. So some additional details. Stargates. Players with propulsion level 3 or 4 have Stargate 1. This means they can move from a star with 3 or more population to any other star with 3 or more population as if they were adjacent. Players with propulsion level 5 means they have Stargate level 2, which means they can move from a star that does not belong to a player they are at war with to any other stars. So any stars that they own, are any stars that are at peace or any stars that are neutral. So if I'm at propulsion level 5, I can go from this star to any other star. Let's say I'm at war with Colin, peace with everybody
When
else.
does this happen? I'm
What?
lost.
Movement.
So we're back to movement.
Yeah, these are just some additional.
Okay, that's weird.
Special.
yeah,
yeah.
details.
All right.
So
That wasn't explained in movement.
when you're moving,
I was not okay.
when your
say
propulsion,
that again.
yes,
I was not tracking with
when
you.
your
I
propulsion
told you
is,
Stargates were in it.
yep, when your propulsion gets up to level 3, you get Stargate 1.
Okay.
And that explains it right there. Connects own star with 3+ pop to another own star with 3+ pop.
Okay.
And then when you get to 2, connects non-hostile star to non-hostile star.
Connects.
And there's some blocking. So we'll look at this. So there's some blocking. So that here, just yeah.
Okay.
So once you get up to your just
And then here
just
you
know
move
that once you're
anywhere.
yeah, your range is infinite.
You just like
Fly. Yeah.
Yep.
Have you seen the show Stargate?
no.
Oh
So-
my God!
Hostile ships block
What's wrong
growth
with you?
actions, gaining.
There's a Kurt Russell movie too.
Hostile ships block growth actions, gaining of additional growth actions, and certain types of movement in the hex where they are located. Okay, so it looks like we can block stuff apparently. It just didn't say so until now. So this includes any special abilities of races or groups that are done as part of a growth action within specific locations. A single ship is able to prevent any number of actions or movements. A blocked star is a star where there are hostile ships. An action or movement currently being executed can become blocked by a player declaring war in that moment. Blocking, so a player may not add any population to a blocked star. So remember, a blocked star just means it has a hostile ship. So if there is a hostile ship, you can't do any of these things. A player may not add population to a blocked star. The population of a blocked star does not count towards a player population total for the effect of a build ship action.
Whoa.
New ships from any such action may also not be placed on a blocked star.
So even if you've got 10 population somewhere and there's one hostile ship next to that star,
Yes.
you don't count any of it. Wow. Okay. It's considered
Okay.
blocked with literally one ship there.
Yes.
Okay. Keep going.
A single ship is able to prevent any number of actions or movements. A blocked star is a star where there are hostile ships.
Wow. Okay.
For all of these, if there is a single hostile ship, you cannot do any of these actions.
Got it. Keep going.
So, you may not add population to a blocked star. The population of a blocked star does not count towards your population for the effect of building a ship, and new ships from any such action may not be placed at a blocked star. A gain star action of a player is blocked by hostile ships in the same location as the targeted star. This means the action is prevented there. If it's prevented by a player newly declaring war, the acting player may choose a different star to take instead. The action is only lost if the player has no other star that they want to take. A hostile star at a non-home star with population 5+ prevents the owner of that star from getting an additional growth action for it. So remember, if you have highly populated stars, you can get additional growth actions, not if that star is blocked.
Okay.
Blocking movement. Only movement as detailed below can be blocked. Blocking works differently in each of these cases. You can block a Stargate. A ship trying to use Stargate 1 or 2 is blocked by a hostile ship in the starting or targeting hex. The player may not move to the target star. If this happens by a player newly declaring war, then the player may move his ship in a different way initially intended. Blocking a wormhole. A ship trying to use a wormhole is blocked by a hostile ship at the exit of a wormhole. The ship still moves through the wormhole but ends its movement in the hex it exited from the wormhole. If this happens by a player newly declaring war, a player cannot decide to move your ship in a different way. Opportunities from, so any question about blocking? Opportunities for declaring war. STS players may declare war on other players anytime on their turn for the move combat phase, otherwise only in the circumstances described below. So you can do it any time of movement. Other than that, STS players can declare war on their growth phase in order to conquer a star. They can declare war on any time to block a growth action or movement that a player is doing. So if I'm trying to move through a wormhole and Tyson and I are at peace and I'm going like this,
But
Tyson
he's
can
STO
say,
and you're STS.
right, or I'm STS.
Two STS.
He's STS. It doesn't matter.
But you're at
all
peace.
all that matters is Tyson is STS and we're at peace. I want to move through here, Tyson can instantly declare war on me, and now I'm
stop you
blocked.
from moving through.
Yes. Or I can say, okay, it's my turn. I'm going to add population to this star. Tyson's at it. He can say, declare war. You don't get to add population there.
Okay.
STS players can declare war when growth actions are revealed to block a star from providing additional growth actions. Players can only declare war, and normally it costs you extra destiny points to do extra actions. But so if I'm going to do so, like I do 3 actions because I have a heavily populated star, and Tyson goes, I'm at that star, I'm declaring war, I block you. I would lose that extra action, and it wouldn't cost me the 2 destiny points, essentially. It just wipes out the whole transaction, basically. STO players can only declare war on STS players, and only to block the subjugation of a primitive neutral star or the conquest of an advanced neutral star or star owned by an STO player. So if an STS player is trying to conquer or subjugate, no matter who they're trying to conquer or who they're trying to subjugate, an STO player can declare war on them to stop it.
When they're in that same hex.
Star Trek
Correct,
rules.
if they're in that same hex, right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, got it. You don't have to demonstrate.
Yeah,
Yep.
pretty much.
Multiple STO players may use the same opportunity to declare war on an STS to block them, even though one would be enough.
Okay.
Make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Then last we have domination cards. So each player also gets a unique game objective in the form of a domination card. We have details on each of them. Scoring. So a player may score their domination card anytime by revealing it. This can also be done at the end of the game. Each domination card is divided into 2 sections, a big top section and a small bottom section. If the player now fulfills the condition stated on the top section, then they immediately get the DP as indicated there. The player also applies the one-time effect as described in the top section. If the player cannot use the one-time immediately, then it is lost. Excuse me. So right now I have the alignment one. Be the only player with your alignment. If I flip this up and I'm the only, if I'm the only dark player at any time, I can flip this up, or I can say, okay, I'm the only dark player, I've met this achievement. And then get an additional, so I would get 4 destiny points for that. Then I would get an additional 2 destiny points for every switch alignment growth action counter played this round. So if it so
If we
happened that
switched over.
right, you 2 switched and I switched, I can flip this and I say, okay, I would get a total of 10 points. 4 for being the only player, and then 2 points for the 3 of us that each switched our alignments. The player now fulfills the got that. If the condition of the top section is not fulfilled, then the player scores the bottom section instead. A domination card that is revealed is not put back in the deck. Keep it in front of themselves till the end of the game. Some dominations, so you would just get 5 at the
You
end of the game.
automatic. Oh, at the end of the game, if it's not revealed.
If you don't
Gotcha.
achieve that and you just kind of decide, I'm just going to take the
Gotcha.
4 points,
Okay. That
if
makes
you
more
never
sense.
make that.
Oh, so that's like constellation?
Essentially, yeah. If the player,
So yours doesn't matter if you fulfill it or
you
not.
can
then.
flip it up at any time, essentially. Well, no,
Do you
because
ever get a new one? So if you
I get 2
accomplish
for
that
everyone.
early in the
no.
game,
This is your one that you get.
it's for
You
the game.
decide
but
when
can
you flip it
at
up.
any time.
You can flip it up at any time. And you can either take, so when you flip it up, one of 2 things happens. If you met the condition of the top half, you get the points of the top half and the bonus described in the top half. If you did not meet this, so if I reveal this when Colin and I are dark and Adam and Tyson are light, then I just get the 4 because I didn't meet the condition, so I just reveal it and I get those points then. So I can decide to reveal it and take these points whenever, or I can try and meet this condition and get it. And I don't even have to reveal this if I feel, if nobody changed alignments, but somehow I'm the only person of the alignment, I might not want to reveal that because I want to wait for a turn where everybody switched, and then I want to
Or you
reveal it.
change it right before we go dark, and then you
Right.
reveal, and then you think
And at
everyone's
least
gonna
get an
change.
extra one out. Well, no, I don't. I can reveal it at any time. So I can wait until everybody reveals what they want to do for the turn. And if I'm in a spot where I'm the only
That's the
dark
one.
player and several people switched, then I go, okay, now's the time.
Got it.
So it can be revealed at any time. If the condition immediately mark the new score on the track accordingly, each player may only use one domination card to score with in the entire game. A domination card that has been revealed is not put back into the deck. The player keeps it in front of themselves as a reminder that they have played that card. Some domination cards have a 12 symbol on them. This indicates the parameters are different in a 12-round game. We're only playing the 8-round game, so don't worry about it. A player can use up 2 remote views to inspect the top card of the domination deck when he has the opportunity to draw one. Oh, I'm sorry, exchanging cards. I skipped something. At the start of the second era and the third era, every player who has not used a domination card yet may exchange their domination card for a new one. In turn order, every player who wishes to do so places their old card face down at the bottom of the deck, then draws the top card from the deck. A player can use up to 2 remote views. So if you have 2 views, you can use both of them to inspect the top card of the deck whenever you have the opportunity to draw one. You may not show the card to other players. These 2 are subtracted during the ones that are available during your next move phase. A player must have at least level 3 in spirituality to do this, and a player may decline to keep the card after inspecting it this way and place it on the bottom of the deck instead. So you can look at the one you're about to draw, decide top or bottom, put it on the bottom, and then take the next
If
one
you
if
have
you want.
2 remote views.
Correct. If you're at least, yeah. And I suppose if
Spirituality
you
3.
want,
Well, it says
if you have 4, you can do it twice. If you don't like it, I think I'd allow that.
Well, it says you lose 2 of your viewing next turn.
Right. So normally you do your remote views during your move phase, but when the era ticks over, you have the opportunity to draw a new card, and you can say, okay, instead of viewing during my turn, I'm going to use these up now. So you just have to remember not to do it again
Yeah.
2 seconds later. Ancient relics. These are these guys, the pyramids with the little question marks. You flip them over, and
They're
they have like a
all
little
outlined
technology thing.
here.
Oh, okay, yep. So
Everything
you can
we
look on
need
that.
to know is on the back.
Is
of
on the
our
back.
records.
Whenever a player gains a star in the center sector with a face-down relic, turn it face up and apply its effects. Some effects are immediate only, in which case remove it from the game. In other cases, leave the relic face up at the star to mark it thus. Relic counters can be expected with scouting or remote views. Other than stars, there are some with special effects. Asteroids we discussed. When doing the build ship action, you get the extra stuff. The effect is blocked by a hostile ship. Yeah, those are there. Okay, nebulas must spend an additional 1 range to enter a nebula hex. STO players get +1 CV per ship in combat in a nebula hex. Neutron stars are these guys. Ships may not enter neutron star hexes, so they're just dead spaces. Game ends after 8 rounds. Players score 1 DP per population they have at the game end. Note maximum you can have is 45, so your population does max out. Players also score destiny points for their galactic goal that was selected for this game. The player with the most destiny points win. If the players are tied, the one with the highest number of stars amongst the ties wins. If this is also a tie, then use turn order. The player who is first in turn order among the tied players wins. And then there are some variants, which we don't need to go over. There's stuff about 2-player stuff we don't need to go over. There's a
What about Destiny
glossary.
Child points.
There's a glossary if anybody is interested there. We can look at that. And then there's a table of race groups that just say everything. We'll get through that throughout the game. And then there's extra information about the technologies. So if you have any if there's
We
anything
can
else we need to
reference once we
know,
get there
yeah.
and
If there's
don't
anything
know.
else we need to go, we can check out here.
I just
So-
have one question.
The galactic eras we should probably go over, or we'll go over the one that we're doing when we get to it. Question?
I just want to clarify all the ways to score
They're-
DPs. That track right
a
there.
lot of these.
This card right here.
Correct.
Population. Is there anything else?
Population end of
Yeah,
game.
end of game population.
Is there anything else?
You did your card.
I believe that is it.
Population, card, and that track.
Yes.
And that track counts. This is end of game. This is
round.
at one point throughout the game.
That's per
And
that's
this is
per
per
round.
round.
Yes.
Right? And those are the only 3 ways to collect DPs.
Correct.
Okay. That's it. I'm good.
And then you can lose them by using more growth actions than 2 in a single turn.
Yeah.
Oh,
Which
yeah.
is right there on your reference sheet.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions before we get started? Anything else we can just kind of work out?
I think that
And
sounds
just a
good too.
comment, you won last game, so we're all ganging
I
up on
did.
you to make sure that you
Fair
get
enough.
dethroned.
Go red. All right, so that's that. We will shuffle up these tokens and pick our factions and start the game here. So thanks, and we'll see you at the game.